My name is Helen Desmond. Today is September 22nd, 1994. I am here to interview Bertha Isaacs, who is a survivor of the Nazi Holocaust. I am doing this under the auspices of the Holocaust Documentation and Education Center, Incorporated. The purpose of this interview is to add to the oral history of the Holocaust, so that through this living memorial, future generations will know what happened. With this knowledge, we hope to prevent any such occurrence in the future. Good morning.
Good morning.
Would you please tell me your full name?
My name is Bertha Isaacs.
What was your maiden name?
Heimann.
Could you spell it?
Heiman.
And we'll begin by talking about the town from which you came. But tell me, please, first, where were you born and what is your birth date?
My birthday is March 25th, 1908 in Schwanfeld. This is Bavaria.
And could you spell Schwanfeld for me?
Schwanfeld.
And where did you grow up?
There I grew up.
There you grew up in Schwanfeld.
Yeah.
And approximately how many people lived in your town?
About 1,200.
And how large would you say was the Jewish population?
About 25 families. There used to be more, but it got smaller and smaller.
So it was a very small Jewish population.
Yes, yeah.
And how did most of the people in your town earn their living?
They're mostly,
Cattle ranches?
not ranches. Sold and bought and sold cattle.
Oh,
yeah.
I see. And what about the Jewish people that lived in Schwanfeld?
I mean Jewish people.
They were in the cattle.
Jewish people, yes.
What
cattle
about,
or dry goods stores.
That's what the Jewish people
Yeah,
did, the few families. What about the rest of the town? What did they do?
Mostly farmers.
Farmers. Well, let's talk a little bit now about how your own family lived. How many children were there in your immediate family?
We were 4. 2 boys, they were a little older, and 1 more sister.
And what were the names of your brothers and sister?
Max, Arthur, and my sister was Rose.
Was your sister younger than you?
No, she was 2 years older.
So you were the youngest in your
Yes,
family?
yeah.
And what were your parents' names?
My father was Adolf Heimann.
And your mother?
Teresa.
And how did your parents earn their living?
My father was also in the, I started them in the cattle.
Cattle trading, would you
Cattle
say?
trading, yeah.
And did your mother work?
No. She had enough to do in the house.
Let me ask you, did your parents come from Bavaria? Did they originally?
My grandparents were there since the not my grandparents, 1600.
On both sides of your family?
My mother, I don't know.
But your father's family was there?
Yeah, and they were there originally from the 1600s.
Hundreds.
Yes.
Now you grew up really in the post-First World War years. How far?
I was a little girl in the First World War.
But you grew up after
Between the first and the second.
How far were you able to go in school? What was your schooling?
My schooling was, I only went to public school.
Public schools?
Because you had to go to a city to go in a better school. My sister went in a better school later, but I was needed home. I couldn't go.
So how many years of schooling did you have?
10 years.
Mm-hmm. Was this a school that had Gentile and Jewish children?
Partly, but mostly we had a Jewish elementary school. We had our own teacher and our own schoolhouse and everything, but it was a better school.
Was this funded by the government?
Partly, and partly our parents.
So it was basically mostly Jewish children in your school?
In this school, one time we went also in school were Catholic Jews, but mostly we went were only Jewish children.
Did you have any religious training?
Oh yes, all the time. All the time.
In this school, or did you go to a special school afterwards?
No, the teachers, we had different teachers, they were religious teachers too.
Was there a synagogue in your town?
Yes, sure.
One synagogue?
One synagogue.
And was it Orthodox or
Yeah,
conservative?
Orthodox.
So your family was an observant family?
Oh yes, especially my father.
Were there any organizations that you belonged to as a young girl or as a teenager growing up? Were there any Jewish organizations?
Not really, not really.
Do you remember any incidents of anti-Semitism that happened to you or your family or friends before 1939?
Before 1939? Oh yes, I went away before I went away 1933 or 34. I went away from this place.
Where did you go?
To Bad Kissingen. I had a relative there.
Could you
And
spell
my
that?
brother married, and I went there. Bad Kissingen, B-A-D, and then capital K-I-S-S-I-E-N-G-E-N.
And where was this, in Bavaria
This
also?
was also in Bavaria, yeah.
Was this a larger city?
Oh
than-
yes, oh, that is a very famous spa, very famous. It was about 50,000 people.
And so you went there to live with your brother's family?
No, not with my brother. My brother lived in our house, but I had an uncle. His wife died. She was related, and I was there, living there.
All right. So can you recall any incidents?
There it was very anti-Semitic. It was, where I was born was not very anti-Semitic. Schwanfeld was not.
Was
very,
not.
No. Only on the day my brother died, my brother married, they made outside the
Reception?
Nazis, you know.
Oh.
That was on the 1st April 1933, I think.
1933.
They boycotted all the German businesses, you know. And this day, this was the first time they boycotted the German business, and they were for our house too, because of the wedding, because of, that was the first.
Demonstration?
Yeah, yeah.
And it started as early as 1933?
Yeah, that was the 1st of April 1933.
And what kind of a demonstration was this? What happened?
I say, especially to keep people back to buy things in Jewish stores. See,
And this was back in Schwanfeld?
Schwanfeld, yes. My brother, he was, I don't know, not president, the secretary or something from the football club.
The football?
So they wanted to do something to honor him on his wedding, but they didn't let him. They prevented, the Nazis prevented this, you know.
What did they look like, these Nazis? What were they wearing?
They were mostly very low people. The lowest people started being in the party.
Were they wearing uniforms? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think so. They were brown SA uniformed, I think so.
So that was the first Did the townspeople pay attention to this boycott?
Yeah, but they didn't prevent it enough like they should have.
Did they then stop doing business with the Jewish people that had businesses?
I don't think so after that. No, I don't think so.
Business life went on as usual.
I went there away soon, so I don't know much anymore what happened.
There.
No, the businesses went on. I know in the Bad Kissingen where I live, the Jewish businesses went on. After this day, it was all over this boycott. After this day, the businesses went on more or less the same, I think.
Do you recall any other incidents after this in 1933? What happened in Bad Kissingen afterwards?
Well, there were many big Nazis. In Bad Kissingen were many big Nazis.
Did they make any laws or any rules against the
Then
Jews?
they came out the laws that Jews couldn't have maids anymore, and that Jews could go to swimming pools anymore, and Jews couldn't do many things. And my sister came with a girlfriend visiting me in Bad Kissingen, and they wanted to go dancing. So we went in a place to go dancing. They threw us out.
How did they know you were Jewish?
They knew me.
Oh, so they knew.
Yeah. This was not a big town, and I know that even sometimes the people they were arguing about if I'm Jewish or not. Once she saw me in the church. I mean, the people even in the market were talking about who is Jewish and who is not.
What were you doing? Were you working at this time?
No, I was only living with my uncle. I was not working.
Were there any other rules as far as schools went? Do you know? Could Jewish people still children go to schools at this time?
Yeah, the children could go still to school, but you couldn't go in a swimming pool anymore. Or
How about theaters and
yes, theaters you could go.
was the boycott against businesses still in effect at this time?
Not openly, not openly.
All right. So there were changes in your city as Hitler began to gain power.
Yes, you didn't feel anymore like you did before.
You were not comfortable?
No.
Did any members of your family try to leave at this time?
My sister left 1936
Where did she go?
to the United States. My brother left 1938.
Did
And
they have
one
any?
brother went 1934 to Israel.
Did they have any problem getting out of Germany?
They couldn't take much along. They already were what I could take. They told them what I could take, nearly no money.
Did you consider leaving at this time?
I considered very much leaving. My brother went to Israel and he was working very hard there. I should go to Israel. But in the meantime, I met my husband, who was living in Lithuania, you know. And Lithuania was not, there were no Nazis then there.
So you felt safe.
Yeah, so I married there.
When did you marry?
I married in 1936.
And your
In
husband's?
April 1936.
And what is your husband's name?
My husband's name is Isidor Isaacs.
And you went from Bavaria to Lithuania in 1936.
Yeah.
Where in Lithuania did you go?
It was also a small town, Saugen, near Memel.
Saugen, is that how it's
Yeah,
pronounced?
yeah.
Near Memel?
Yeah,
Memel is the large city?
yeah, that's a large city.
All right, so you're telling me that in Lithuania there wasn't too many problems?
Then, no. Then there were no Nazis there till 1939, till the Nazis marched in. In 36, 3 years,
So you have no, do you have any recollection of any incidents of anti-Semitism in Lithuania during that time?
I mean, there were enough anti-Semites there, but they didn't show it openly.
Did you know what was going on in the rest of Europe?
Oh yes, I had relatives. I went even 1938. I went back to Germany for a visit. I went to the cemetery of my parents.
Your parents had passed away in this time?
Before, my father passed away in 1930, my mother 2 years later. So I went to the cemetery, and there was already big anti-Semitism in Germany.
Were you free to travel back and forth into Germany during those last years?
Yes, till 38 years, yes. You needed a visa, certainly, like from any other country.
While you were living in Lithuania in 1938 and closer to 1939, did you have to register as Jews or?
No.
No, all right. Where were you living when the war broke out?
When then was no war, 1939, they only came to this, they called it Memegebiet, I don't know.
Memegebiet?
Yeah. This was a place that used to belong to Germany before the First World War. And after the First World War, they gave it to Lithuania. And this was a little country, you know, and the border between Germany and Lithuania. And then they came in and took this over in 1939.
Do you remember the date in 1939 when this happened?
April.
April of 1939.
39, yes.
And you were living in this area at the time?
We had a store there. We had a big store there.
What kind of business was your husband in?
Dry good and everything was a little, like a little, how do you convenience store? I don't know how to call it. It was a big
all-purpose store.
Oh, yeah, everything. But shoes and wallpapers and even bicycles, everything. What you
Did you work with your husband at that time?
Yeah, I was all day long in the store.
And you also worked?
Yes, sure. I said I was working for.
Did you have any children at that time?
Yeah, a year after 1936, we married. 1937, our son was born.
And what was your son's name?
Ralph N. Isaacs.
All right. So in April of 1939,
Yeah.
the Germans came in. And what happened when they came in?
It was in the evening. I mean, you were afraid already for weeks it would happen. Like first they marched in Czechoslovakia and in other places. So they said already the next place will be this little
Area.
So we had a girl, she was working as a telephone operator, and she called us and she said, tonight the Germans will march in.
Was she Jewish, this girl?
No, she was not Jewish. And so we had already sent to Lithuania. We took an apartment there before, months ago, and sent our furniture and things there.
Because you were afraid of the occupation?
Yeah, we were afraid. People were talking. So we had friends deeper in Lithuania, were real Lithuanian. They sent us like an omnibus from the car, and we put the omnibus full with things from the store and the car, and we went mitten in the night away from there.
Do you remember the date?
It was April. I don't know exactly the date.
All right. April
Forgot.
April 1939.
1939, yes.
1939.
I don't know, was it the 29th or I can't say exactly what the date was.
So you left before the Germans arrived,
We
actually.
left before the Germans arrived the next morning.
And your husband and you left your business, you closed up your store?
Everything, yes, yes.
You just
We
left
didn't
it?
close it up. We left it. We had a sales lady. She took right away over everything.
And you went to where in Lithuania?
To Tauragen. Tauroggen.
And that was deeper into Lithuania.
Yes.
You felt you would be safer there?
No, yeah, it was still Lithuania. We were still living from 39 till 41 there. Then the Russian came there and occupied it.
So from until 1941, you were not under any occupation in Lithuania?
No, I don't know if you call it occupation. The Russians came in.
When?
1941.
In 1941?
Or was it 40 already? May have been 40 already.
What happened when the Russians came in?
When the Russians came in, they threw us out from our apartment.
Did
And
they?
we had to take a not so comfortable apartment. But as of my husband was working there, they threw him out of the job too, because
Because he was Jewish?
not because he was Jewish, no, not because he was Jewish, because they said he's a bourgeois, he has some money, you know. For this reason.
Did he own that business also?
No, it was a big store like Publix, and he was the cashier there.
And they threw him out of that
Yeah,
job.
yeah.
Was he able to get other work?
He was so shortly, he wasn't looking anymore. It was so shortly before everything.
Were you offered?
Oh yeah, he learned then, yeah. He went then to dental, some make this, how do you call it, dental?
To make the
False
the false teeth?
Yeah, and he learned there.
The Russians allowed him to learn this new trade?
Oh, well, nobody, they don't mix in what people did privately. Only you shouldn't take somebody else's job when you were able, when you are not poor or something like that.
Did they allow the schools? Did they allow the schools to be open?
Oh, yes.
Could the Jewish people attend those schools?
Oh, yes, sure. That didn't make any difference.
And as far as observing religion, did they have any
they
rules?
didn't interfere then, no.
They did
didn't
not interfere?
then. No.
Were you offered Russian citizenship?
Yes, we had to have a Russian passport.
So you did
Yeah,
take Russian
yes,
citizenship?
Yeah.
Were any people deported from the town by the Russians?
Yes. They were sent to Russia, some.
Can you tell me more about that, please?
I remember there was a Jewish doctor, a woman. One night they picked her up and sent her to Russia. Different people were sent to Russia.
Were they mostly Jews that were sent
I
out?
think mostly Jews, yes.
Do you know where in Russia they were sent?
No. Mostly they sent them to Siberia or something, Siberia or
Siberia.
something. Yeah.
During this time, were you able to communicate with your family in Germany? In Bavaria?
Yes, I sometimes got a letter, very seldom. Yeah, and from the United States too, I got sometimes a letter, yes.
So the mail was going through?
It was going slow, but it went through, yes.
And what happened to you and your family during those years while you were in Lithuania, while the Russians were in power?
I said nothing special, only they threw us a few times out of apartments because had a little convenience, and this they took for their offices, and we had to go out.
What was the food situation like during those years?
There was food.
Clothing?
There were food. It was more expensive, but there were a lot of Russian soldiers there, and they bought everything up, but you could get food and things what you needed.
Did the Germans ever reoccupy Taurogen?
Yeah, that was the big war starting. See, this Taurogen was only 5 kilometers from the German border. And certainly people knew that something will happen, that a war will start soon. For weeks already we were afraid. And even my mother-in-law and our child, and my husband had an 18-year-old sister, they were supposed to go to a farmer outside to hide there, you know, when something would happen, but it never came to it. They came so fast, it surprised us overnight.
Do you remember the date that that happened?
Exactly the date, I don't know. It was in July or August.
Of what year?
1941, I think it was 41.
When the Germans came into Taurogen.
That was a big tragedy.
That was a big tragedy. You mentioned that you had made plans which you never were able to follow through.
We had suitcases packed, everything for them to go in the country.
Was it a Jewish farmer that you were going to hide with?
No, it was a Lithuanian farmer.
What was the attitude of the Lithuanian people during those years of occupation by the Russians towards the Jews?
Not good, not bad. Some were good, some were not good. It depends, you know.
Were there any open acts of anti-Semitism?
No.
So, okay, we'll go now.
No, you want to know the night when
I would like
happened?
to, yes.
Yes. We were, in the evening, I said we were making plans. There were a man there who wanted to bring my mother-in-law and the child to the country. He had a horse and a wagon. And my sister-in-law had a friend, and two other friends. We were sitting till 12 o'clock in the night in our room and talking, you know. And then we went to bed, and about 3 o'clock we woke up. It was terrible. Hell was already, they were already shooting, the city was burning, and the Germans.
At 3 o'clock in the morning?
Morning, yes. And so we just had to go up. I took my child, and he had not even a coat when we ran out, only a little, and we ran out of the burning city. And this I have to tell you too, there was in the evening with us a young man. He was a friend of my sister-in-law's, and he came in the morning. He was assistant of the church. He was a communist. He was a very big communist, but he was a very educated, nice young man. And he came, we couldn't hear him ringing the bell. He came up to the balcony, and he came in and wanted to take us out. He took us out, and he took the child, and he ran out, and we ran after him. And my mother-in-law, my sister-in-law also. But this was a terrible situation. The city was burning, and it was shooting, and you couldn't breathe, and you were... So on the end of the city was once burned up, so it was very modern built. Streets this way and that way, parallel, you know. And the end in one street were all the Russian trucks waiting to evacuate people. So he was, I said, he was a communist, he spoke fluently Russian. So they took us in the truck and we went away. And my sister-in-law, my mother-in-law, they were right behind us. They couldn't speak Russian. They went away without taking them.
Did you speak Russian?
No.
But because you were with this young man,
Yeah.
and so you and your husband and your son got on the truck.
We got on the truck. And then they went out, it was about maybe 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. So till it got light, and then the Germans came and started to throw bombs on
The
trucks.
airplanes came?
Yeah. So they went in the forest and we were hidden until it was over.
How long did the attack take?
Maybe 3 hours. Then we were looking for my sister-in-law, for my mother-in-law, but we couldn't find them anymore. And later we went with trucks and food and everything, and this young man was always with us. He carried a child, otherwise I don't think we couldn't have made it too.
What did you take with you when you left?
Such a little suitcase. We had already a bigger suitcase in our bedroom to take some things, but my husband took in the hurry some silverware. We had forks and it bigger from the silver, from the box. The bigger things, he took it and threw it in a little suitcase, that big. I only tell it because we later lived on this. We sold it and we could live on it. And that's all, no clothes, nothing.
Money, jewelry?
No jewelry. We had no time for jewelry. My husband, it was a half-ready house where we were living in. It was even, on top was still not finished.
Construction?
So my husband went up with a ladder, and he had before such a box put in the earth with some foreign, with dollars and with English pounds. He had put them up there, and he had the sense to go up there and took it out. And this we took along. It was not very, very much, but it was to keep us alive.
I just wonder, how did you get foreign money?
We bought it.
It was being sold?
Yeah.
And you knew that you needed to have this for your own protection?
Everybody was afraid something will happen, so you...
This farmer, going back just a moment, that wanted to protect you, were you going to pay him for doing this?
Oh, sure, he wouldn't take it not for paying.
All right, so now you're in the woods, and what happened then? Did you get back on the truck?
No, the trucks went away, and we started walking, and in the meantime, it was morning, we were there all night, and in the meantime, we went to a farmer, and he let us rest a little bit in the shed, you know. I don't know, maybe he gave us some coffee, I don't remember anymore. Anyway.
Did he know you were Jewish?
Sure. So we were walking.
Were you just alone with your husband and child at this point?
And this young man.
And this young man.
Yeah. And
what was this young man's name? Do you
Discount. It was the only time I heard his name, and I always had in my mind to write to him. A very famous producer years ago in Hollywood with the same name.
Discount?
Yeah.
And what was his first name?
This producer?
No, the young man who was with
Isaac was his name.
Isaac Discount.
Yeah.
And he really saved your life.
He saved our life. He certainly did. And he sacrificed his.
What happened?
He didn't survive. They shot him.
Who shot him? The Germans?
Yeah. Or the little Indians. I don't know who. I don't know. I told him 100 times we were walking. We started Monday and we were walking till Friday, till we came to a place where the Germans already were. And I told him 100 times, go, we are only for you a hindrance, you know? But he didn't.
He stayed with you.
He stayed with us. And then we came in Friday, we came sometimes. Yeah, we mostly walked.
Where did you spend the evenings? Where did you spend the nights during that walk?
Outside, free in the woods. And Friday evening, we came to a little town, Linkova. I think you must have heard it.
Linkova.
Was a very famous anti-Semitic town.
In Lithuania?
In Lithuania.
Mm-hmm.
They later wanted to bring all the Jews from our ghetto there to shoot them there, but it didn't come to it. So we came to this town on Friday evening, and the Germans came in before us, so we could not go in the town. They closed it up. And we found a little house with a very old lady. The chickens were in the room with her, and we had to spend the night there, you know.
She let you come in?
She let us come in. She was a Jewish lady, you know. And the next morning, about 9 o'clock, they let us go into town, or 10 o'clock. We could go into town. And we went to a place looking for a Jewish place, something, you know. We came to a house. There was a couple, but they didn't let us go in the house, but they showed us a house where the people were run away already. Jewish people were running away and left the house.
So it was vacant?
It was vacant. So he went with us there and let us go there. And in the house there was an old man, paralyzed, who was living before there.
Oh, so it wasn't vacant. Somebody was there.
Only this old man. His daughter, she was a supervisor or manager from a store like Publix, you know?
A food market.
Yeah, something like it. But she didn't come home, and he was laying all alone by herself, completely paralyzed in a room that big. So, but there were other people there too, a couple with 2 children.
These were all refugees?
Were all refugees, yes. And another couple we met there, a man and a woman. They all were in this house, we were there. And so we were there during the night. We had to close everything, you know, that nobody saw that we were living there. And in the garden was a little temple, so we took the water out of dirty water and made something to drink from it. And opposite for this garden was the school, and this was occupied from all the Germans.
So they were very close to you?
Very close, and they marched always through the streets. We were afraid they should.
How long did you live in that house?
Not long, from Saturday till Monday.
And where did you go from there?
No, I only let me finish it how it was. There's something else I'll have to tell you. So, in the night from Saturday to Sunday, we felt very insecure in there, you know. So in the evening, this young couple, and we said we go out in the woodshed and hide there. And we built a big wall from the wood, and we were hiding behind this shed till about 1 o'clock in the night. Yeah, and the couple who owned the house, they came back. They couldn't go any farther, they came back. So they were in the house, and this couple with the 2 children, and this old man, and we were in the woodshed. So about 12, 1 o'clock in the night, it was so quiet. We said, we have to look what is doing in there. We looked in there, there was nobody in anywhere. All the people were gone.
What happened to them?
Just took them out.
You didn't hear anything?
We didn't hear it. They took them out, and we didn't hear that. They took them out, you know. So we said, we cannot stay here. We have to do something.
You had a feeling that something was going to happen?
Yeah, for this we were hiding behind this wood shed.
Was this young man with you, this Isaac?
No. He was not with us. He was sleeping somewhere else. That was he was sleeping somewhere else, and we never saw him again. He left his money and how much money he had, his purse and his pen and everything for us. Somebody should give it to us. And the daughter from this man also, they all took him from this, where they were.
In the house?
In the house, they took him and put him in jail. And
in jail they put them?
Yeah, they made so provisionary jail, you know, and we never saw him again. And later we heard on the way they were all supposed to go to Shaolai, where we were in ghetto no, they didn't have cars, then probably in a wagon somewhere. And they took him, there was a high school teacher, a music teacher, and he was also known as a communist. They took these two off from the wagon and shot him.
On the road?
Yeah.
You heard this later?
I heard it from two people who were on the same wagon.
Who did the shooting?
I think the Lithuanians.
The Lithuanians?
Yeah.
Because they had been communists?
Yeah, they had been I think so.
So where did you and your husband and your little boy go from there?
So from there, we went, then we decided, this other couple and we will go in the morning to the police station, because where can we go? So we went to the police station, and they asked us, how did you come here? You are living in Taurang, this is about 60 kilometers from here. How did you come here? So my husband said to food. They hit him right away with a...
These were the police, the civilian,
the Lithuanians.
The Lithuanian police.
Yeah, they hit him very badly and said, what was also a miracle, you walked here, so go and walk back. They knew we wouldn't come very far, you know? So we went with a little child. It was very hot in the beginning of August. It was very hot. We walked with the child out of the city, and
they wouldn't allow you to stay in that town. They wouldn't allow you to stay.
How can you stay in that town? They put everybody in jail. Whomever. We were the only ones who they let go. I said, so many miracles happened to us. This other couple, this young couple, they were not married. They did not go to the police station. They went over the fields and ran away somewhere. We met them later again.
They did manage to escape?
They did manage to, I don't know, after the war I didn't, I married him, we met him later somewhere.
So where did you and your husband go after this? They put you out?
So we went on the street walking. And when we were walking a little bit, there came the Lithuanian police and said, where are you, and this and that. We said, we have to go back to the jail, you know. So we said, we were there, they sent us, and they couldn't believe that they let us go out. So we said, if you don't believe us, come back, we will
prove it to you.
Prove it to you. So they believed us then and let us go. And we said we want to walk back to Taurang, where we were coming from. But it was impossible, certainly. So we went out of the town and we went in a farmhouse and said to the people, we will pay you, bring us to Shaolai. That was already maybe 30 kilometers away.
Shaolai?
Yeah. where we were in the ghetto all these years. Bring us there and we will pay you. We started maybe with 20 but liters they had. Every time we agreed, they wanted more and more and more, and the end it was 100. And all right, we said, okay, so should bring us with a wagon there. So we were driving a short, my husband had to pay him certainly before. We were driving a short while. The whole German army is coming on the street.
On the road that you were traveling?
Yeah, the roadway. So he was afraid and he said, go out, go out, go out. And he turned around and we were standing shortly before the whole German army.
He didn't take you to where he had contracted?
No, for nothing in the world.
How far away were you from Shaolin?
Very far away, maybe still 30 kilometers. It was not very far when he brought us. It was in the middle of a wood, you know, terrible. So we were afraid. We ran in the woods to hide. And these Germans, they came with the horses through the woods to try, there were not people hidden.
Were there other people hiding in the woods?
No, not that we know.
You never met up with anyone?
No, never met up with anyone. And they nearly were about our heads, so we said we cannot leave here. We went out on the street.
How old was your son at this time?
4 years.
Was he...
Maybe not even 4, around.
Was he frightened about all this?
Sure he was frightened. Sure he was frightened. He was very much frightened. And so we were walking, and it was dusty, you know, the dust goes not out when the tree are very high, the European woods hold. In this dust we were walking and walking, the army went this way, and they were asking us sometimes, but they let us go. And then we came on the end, they were arresting the Germans, and they also were asking us, but they didn't know that we were Jews, I think, you know?
So you arrived in Shaolin?
So we still have to tell you 6. So we were walking, and then it became evening. So we went up on the hill, was a farm, we went up there and asked the farmer if he couldn't let us sleep there. So he went with us in the shed with the cows and things and let us sleep there.
Your
Yeah.
microphone. I'm sorry to interrupt
Put
you.
it away now. So we slept there in the morning, or we rested
Did they
there.
know you were Jewish? Did they?
I think they knew we were Jewish. And in the morning, this was up on a hill, I see downstairs on the street was a German army truck. So I said, we go downstairs, maybe they take us. What can we do? We cannot walk that far. So we went down and we asked him, and they said, they want to see our passports and everything. And then they said they are not allowed to take civilians in here, but they wanted to see our passport, and when they saw that we were Jewish, they didn't take us. They said they are not allowed civilians. So they went away with the truck then, and we were walking behind, and then a little while they was waiting for us, and they called us. And I said, no, I'm not going there. I don't know what they have in mind, you know? But they were waiting, and we went, and they took us till Shaolin with the truck. Before the city, we had to go out.
And these were Lithuanians?
These were Germans.
Oh, also Germans.
German soldiers. So we came, we had friends who were living with us where we lived before, and we knew they were living in this city, so we went to them.
Now Shaolin, would you say how is that spelled?
S-C-H-A-U-L-E-N.
So you went to your friends?
We went to our friends, and in this night we were sleeping, for this I tell it, so in this farmhouse in the shed, they took all men, Jews from Shaolin and put put them away.
Where did they send them?
In jails. And what I know what happened with all of them.
You don't know what happened to the men?
Some were not killed, but most of them were. So in this house where we were, these people, they started a restaurant there, a little restaurant. There were many people, it was a double house, there were many people there, and they had two son-in-laws. They were all taken away.
All the men?
And the boarders, all the men were taken away.
But your husband was not?
Lucky we were not there.
You were in the shed?
We were in this farmhouse.
In the farmhouse? Oh, the night before?
This was the night before we came in the morning, we came in the city, you know?
Yes, I understand you now. The day before, all the men were taken away.
This same night, when we were sleeping in this farmhouse, there were all the men taken away. And now one son-in-law, they brought him out of jail. I don't know, they gave him a lot of presents or something there, but all the other ones were disappeared. Nobody came out anymore. So,
you arrived to your friend's place?
yeah, we were there, and a friend said, and we found that this was happened in the night,
Right.
but we just prevented it by sleeping in this farmhouse.
Right.
So we were there for quite a while, maybe a month and a half, and they said they make a ghetto where all the Jews come in. Until they were ready in the ghetto, they took my husband to work, and they wanted
What kind of work did they send him to do?
cleaning out the synagogue, to put the people in there where they transported for killing, you know. And all this way. And he met one man, a Lithuanian, who knew him from home. He said, "What are you doing here? They will kill you when you stay a little longer. Go out, see that you can go out of here."
Were you still able to leave if you had wanted to?
From the place? Yes, because he was only a work. The people were not there yet. They wanted to put in.
They were just
only
preparing
the
it.
workers there. So my husband ran away out of the place. And so we were there and waiting under terrible circumstances. Certainly we could not walk on the street. We had to walk not on the sidewalk, we had to walk on the street, and then they had a yellow star already, and we had very little to eat, nearly nothing. My little boy once said, "Why do we have to walk on the street?" They had a little dog, you know, his name was Foxy. He said, "Foxy can walk on the sidewalk, why can't we walk on the sidewalk?" So that was it. So we were there till about 4 or 5 weeks, I don't remember long.
And what happened then?
Then they made a ghetto, then they opened the ghetto.
In the same area?
In the same city outside, I think, where the poorest people were living, the very poor people, such little houses, you know. From this they made a ghetto. And first, and we came in the ghetto, and there was a man, my husband knew it from business. He was in the ghetto administration right away.
Let's talk a little bit about that, the ghetto. Do you remember the date that you entered the ghetto?
I don't remember the dates, no.
All right.
No.
Was it a closed ghetto?
Yeah, sure, with barbed wires around.
Barbed
sure.
wire?
Yes, sure.
And who were the guards that guarded the wire?
The Germans.
Germans.
Yes.
Were you able to go in and out of the ghetto if any time you wanted?
No.
So the ghetto was closed.
The ghetto was completely closed.
What rules or laws were established by the Nazis for the operation of the ghetto? Was there a curfew?
Inside the ghetto for the evening to go out or something? No.
You could walk freely within the ghetto?
Yeah, it was not a big ghetto. They made 2 ghettos in this city. one on this side, one one had 3,000 people and one had 4,000 people. We were in the larger one.
All right, tell me about the living conditions. What kind of house were you in?
We were not in a very good health because we didn't have much to eat. We only got...
No, what kind of a house? Where were you living?
House,
Yes.
you mean? Oh, that was a tiny little farmhouse that had 4 rooms.
How many people were living in that?
48 people were living in there.
In the 4 rooms?
Yes. And all kinds of people, nobody knew the other one.
And what was the food situation?
They delivered food for how many people, so much food they delivered, you know? So it was very scared.
Did you have water? Was there water?
Yes, there was water. There was water. Was there a well or... There was water. Water was no problem.
How about sleeping accommodations?
There was one very tiny room. They were sleeping, a couple, they were sleeping in one bed, and the room was that small, and on the other side was another bed. There were sleeping their 2 teenage daughters, and on one side we had a bed in the middle. We put a military cot for our child next to our bed, and on the end, my husband's uncle, he was hiding in the country. He came back, and he had to go. So we were only, when you want to go out, you had to only walk on top of the beds.
Everybody. All right,
Yeah.
Mrs. Isaacs, we're going to end the tape here, and we're going to take a moment to change tapes.
Yes, okay.
So
maybe it's too...
we will just take just a moment. We'll start again shortly.
Yeah.
This is tape 2. My name is Helen Desmond, and I am interviewing Bertha Isaacs, who is a survivor of the Nazi Holocaust. Now, Mrs. Isaacs, we were talking about the ghetto in Shaolin in Lithuania, and we're talking about the conditions under which you lived. And you were telling me how crowded each room was. Did you have electricity in that house?
Yes.
And how about sanitation? What was the conditions there?
For the outhouse, we had to go all the way through a garden, and in winter the snow was that high and we had to walk, I don't know how far till we came there.
How about bathing conditions?
No bathing, nothing. We only could wash ourselves.
What about health care if anybody got sick in the ghetto?
They made a little hospital. They made a little hospital. I even had an abortion there.
Who staffed the hospital?
Jewish doctors.
Jewish doctors.
Nurses.
Was there medicine there?
Not very much. No.
What about epidemics during those years in the ghetto?
I don't really remember much epidemic.
You don't remember about that?
Especially, no.
You don't think there were?
Not that prominent epidemic now.
And you say that you went to have an abortion in that ghetto.
Yes.
Was that a choice that you made yourself?
No. No, I went to the doctor to find out. And one day they came and picked me up. I had to go.
You were not permitted to have a child?
No.
This was a law that the Germans
Yeah,
had
oh
made?
yeah, sure.
They wouldn't allow any new children to be born?
No.
Was there work in the ghetto?
Only inside the ghetto. For instance, my husband, he was the manager for the ghetto laundry. Only through we were in a room with one man from the ghetto administration. He saw that he got this job, but most people had to work outside.
Did you work?
I worked in the ghetto. We repaired clothes. From old clothes we repaired. I was working as a tailor, you know.
Did the Jewish community organize to help itself in the ghetto?
There was nothing to help.
Was there a Judenrat in that ghetto?
There was a ghetto administration.
What did you call that?
How did it?
It wasn't called the Judenrat, though.
No.
Who were the members of this administration?
I said this man who were living with us in the room, Mr. Sack, he was about giving people the apartments where to live, the places to live.
What was his name?
Sack.
Sack.
Pinchas Sack.
Pinchas Sack.
Yeah.
Um,
And there was...
what about jobs? Did they give the jobs to people from this administration?
No, this did the Germans. They said they needed so and so many people for this job, and they had to send them out. And they had to go once. They came in on Yom Kippur evening. The Germans came in, and they said they needed 50 workers to work on the airport. So they said, who is speaking German? My husband was speaking German. So they said, you have to bring me 100 people or 50 people to work this night on Yom Kippur night on the airport. And he had to go from house to house till he brought up these people and they marched to the airport. That's the way they did it.
So they would come to just anybody and recruit them to do the work
Yeah,
for
or they
them.
said to the ghetto administration, we need today 100 people, or we need 200 people, or we need...
Do you remember any of the other names of people that were in this administration?
I knew him all the time. Recently I forgot a lot.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Abramson was one.
Abramson?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I knew all the names, but...
Was there a Jewish police force in the ghetto?
Yes.
Was there more than one Jewish police organization?
No, there were policemen. There were no organization. They were just policemen. They had no organization or anything.
What did they do? What was their job?
They were to sometimes when somebody had to go urgently in the city, they had to accompany them.
Why would anybody have to go to the city?
There were sometimes people, but I had to go. I don't remember that so exactly anymore either.
Were there any Jewish or non-Jewish organizations outside of the ghetto that offered help?
No.
Can you perhaps describe some of the activities that went on in the ghetto? Were there religious activities in the ghetto?
Yeah, there were. They tried to have religious instructions.
Was there a synagogue?
No. I know, and Yom Kippur we were there. They had the services in our house. There was a shed. We had it there.
Was this done secretly, or were you permitted to have these services?
I mean, there was nobody to watch. There were no inside the ghetto. There were no Germans. They were all outside.
They never came in?
Oh, yes, they came in, but not that you can say they watched what everybody did.
Were there educational activities in the ghetto? Were there schools?
There were for the children some kind of school, not real schools, some kind of schools.
Was there any cultural activity?
Very little.
Were there newspapers or radios? Were you permitted to have radios?
In this time, no. Oh, no.
What about the mail?
We had no mail.
No
We
mail.
had no contact with outside.
Did you ever hear what happened to your family that was left behind, your mother-in-law and your
We
sister?
had no contact, nothing.
No contact. Were there any resistance or underground organizations in the ghetto?
Our ghetto, not really. Sometimes one or other ran away and went to a underground organization, but indirect, immediately there was not.
When you say sometimes somebody ran away, did they all make it safely? Did they all escape safely?
I don't know, because I don't know.
Were you aware of any individual acts of resistance or defiance?
Not really, no.
Were there any Christians in the ghetto?
No.
So how long was your family able to remain together in the ghetto?
Till October 1943.
You stayed together until October 1943.
Yes.
Did you hear about the Nazis' treatment of the Jews in other parts of Europe?
Yes.
Did you know what was going on in the rest of Europe?
Yes, we heard about it, but not really. We knew only mostly what they did in Lithuania, in the ghettos. From outside, we knew very little.
How did you hear these stories?
From the inside,
Yeah.
there sometimes one ran away from one ghetto and ran to the other one. So we knew before this was in our ghetto where they took all the elderly people and the children, everybody away. We knew that they did it before in Kovno, and they did it before in Vilna, so we were afraid already. I know.
So you knew that this was being done.
Yes.
Were there any selections made in your ghetto
Oh yes, sure,
throughout those few years?
yes. My little boy knew that something will happen. He once said, "Why don't you dig out?" We had a big garden around the seal house, you know. "Why don't you dig out a grave," he said, "and put me in to hide me."
Your son, your
Yeah.
little son.
Yeah, to hide me before they take me away.
Did you try to provide a hiding place in the
Where can you hide it? Little houses, and even we had such a little attic up there where you could have maybe. Many times they went to the attics and they threw the children down. But I don't know, I was working in this ghetto where we repaired the clothes, and there was such a big mountain of old clothes. I went and I took my child along and I buried him under the clothes. But after a while they came and they said everybody has to go out, everybody. They sent in 80 Ukrainian soldiers, you know, who had to clean out. So can I go out and leave my child under this pail?
So did you take him
So I
with you?
took him out.
Where did all these clothes come from?
And people left their homes and they had no more room. Everything was overfilled. The whole, where maybe 20,000 people went in a place from 3,000-4,000 people, you know. So what could they do? Outside was everything full with furniture.
This was all things that had been confiscated from
No, they were not confiscated. There was no room where to put them. And for instance, when this happened, my son and I, we went to this place for repairing the clothes. My husband was home alone, so he didn't know what to do, and he wanted to come there. In the meantime, the streets were full with Germans and took with his Russian
Ukrainians.
soldiers and took everybody. So he was running in a clothes closet and a free place and was hiding in this clothes closet. And they didn't open this. And we were, after they took the children and the elderly people away from us, we had to go on a free place, on a big free place.
Like a marketplace?
It was not a marketplace. I don't know for what it was used before. And there they played music and everything, and we were there, and you know, the women were crying, and my husband, I didn't see from morning till in the evening, 5 o'clock, my husband.
Can we go back and talk, if you are able to, about what happened when they took the children?
I say I took him out of this bundle of old clothes, and we went out of the street, and the moment I went out, they took him away from my hand. When I wanted to go along, I said, I don't let him go alone, I wanted to go, but they took their guns and hit me. I could not go along. And then they brought us to this place, and outside there were already the trucks waiting where they put the children in.
Did they take all of the children from the ghetto?
Everybody what they could find. There were maybe from hundreds of children, 2 were hiding. One they threw down from the attic, they threw him down, they found that he broke his legs. They didn't leave anybody there. I don't think there was anybody. I know one boy, I don't know where he was hidden. A few were outside in working camps, you know. There were a few, but they all went then in the concentration camp in Stuttgart and were killed there. Nobody
Do
really
you
saw.
remember the date when they took the children?
The date?
Yes.
I don't think it was the 3rd of October.
And what year?
I'm not 100% sure. 1943.
How many children do you think they took that day? Do you remember?
I remember that it took 800-900 people. I don't know exactly how many children. Were mostly children.
Mostly, and elderly people.
And elderly people.
Did they tell you where they were taking the children?
They said they put them in a camp.
They told you they were going to put them in a camp.
There was one man, his name was Katz, he was also in the ghetto administration. And he said he doesn't believe it. He told them he would like to know where the children. He said, if you don't believe it, come on, you come with him. And they took him.
He did go.
He disappeared too. Yeah.
Mr. Katz did go.
Yeah.
Because he didn't trust what they were saying.
He said he doesn't believe it. He would like to know where the children are going. This he was asking. He said, all right, and come along, you will see it.
How long did this whole thing take, would you say?
From mornings about 9 o'clock till 5 o'clock in the evening.
And where were you all of this time?
I said they put us in this open place, and there they played music, and the women were crying, and I was especially worried about my husband because he wasn't there either, and my child, you know, can imagine how it was. It was terrible.
And what happened in the evening?
In the evening they said, you can go back to your
Home.
home.
And what did you find when you went back?
Then my husband came, from his hiding place, he came out. And they didn't do anything in the houses. They didn't. They only looked
For the children
for the children.
and the older people.
We found the house empty. The house from 48 people was empty.
Were they mostly young
There were
people?
lot of children and old and elderly people. Yeah.
And at the end of that day, from 48 people, how many people were left?
I said 8.
8 people were left.
Yes.
And what happened then, Mrs. Isaacs?
Then we were living for a while in there, and they told all the kinds of stories, but I didn't believe never a word that the children are alive. And then they opened, they took a hospital who was there to be built. It was not all finished, and they opened a repair place for things who came back from the army, you know, shoes to repair and clothes to repair and knitted things to repair. And we all had to go there to work. Some people went, I don't know, turf, how you would, they digged out for heating these pieces of earth. I don't know, here you don't know that. They digged this out, and with this you could heat the stove. And about 300 people went there
To do this kind of work?
to do this kind of work, but nearly all of the people, when this was called Armeebekleidungsamt, I don't know if you understand anything German.
No, but if you say it more slowly, perhaps it
For
would
the
be...
army, a place for the army, for the army's clothes to repair.
And
you
what
know?
was that called?
Armeebekleidungsamt.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Was your husband with you all this time?
Yeah, we were then.
Were there other actions, other selections going on during this time?
Only for working places, for working camps.
They would take
Openly.
people to go out to work?
Work, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were there any suicide attempts in the ghetto?
Very few. Very remarkably few. Maybe 1 or 2 in all the time.
And what is the most powerful memory that you have of the ghetto experience?
We were living in constant fear. They shouldn't come in. And what will happen to us?
With your son?
And with my son, and this was nothing overbeats that.
No.
This was the worst catastrophe.
Let's talk now about the deportation from the ghetto. How long did you live in that
We
ghetto?
were not transported from the ghetto.
You
or
were not?
Deported. We were in this Armeebekleidungsamt, what I said. From there, we were transported to Germany.
Well, this, I don't know if I can pronounce it. Is it a factory? Can we call it a factory?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you living in that factory?
Yes, we were living in barracks.
In barracks?
Barracks were they brought from the Russian front, full with flies and lice and everything.
The clothing?
Not at the whole barracks.
The barracks?
Wood, everything was
Came-
full. We couldn't sleep in the night. We couldn't sleep one night. We washed it with everything. It didn't help. They ate us up alive.
Oh, I did not understand. I thought that this factory for the repair of the uniforms was in the ghetto. It
No,
was not in
no,
the ghetto.
No, was not in the ghetto.
Okay, please explain that to me. Where was this place?
It really was we built a hospital outside of Schaulen, of the city we were, but it was not finished. But they
took that over.
They took that over and made this.
Oh, so once you started working there, you did not come back into the ghetto?
No. We did not
How
come.
many people lived in this factory?
Oh, hundreds. Nearly all the people who were left.
Oh, so they actually moved most of the ghetto from the ghetto to this other place.
Yeah. So much I know, mostly everybody. I'm not so 100% sure, but mostly especially all of the younger people who were left.
Okay, I'm clear on that now. Now, what were your conditions like in this factory? Was it
In the factory?
No, well, where you were living, was it enclosed? Were you able to go in and out? Was it guarded?
It wasn't sure. It was very strongly guarded.
Was there barbed wire there?
I wouldn't say barbed wires, I don't think so, but guarded.
And how many barracks were there on this?
There were a lot. We were 42 people. The barracks had one room. We were 42 people living in this one room.
And what did you sleep on?
And such cots, such double, triple cots.
Bunks?
So small bunks, yeah.
How many people slept in each bunk?
My husband and I think we slept in one such a small bunk. Above us, I think we may have slept each in one bunk. We were so small. But opposite us was one bachelor sleeping. So I think in each bunk was one because
person.
they were very small.
Was there heat in the barracks?
Yes, we had a little stove in, yes.
And what about food at that time?
No, we got the food from the kitchen, very terrible food.
Would you tell me about the food? How many times a day did you eat? What were your meals like?
In the morning a little coffee and in the evening a meal.
Was there an appel
Yes,
every morning?
every morning. Yes.
Would you tell me about that, please?
So I had to get up in the morning and standing outside for a half an hour and then
What about if the weather was not good?
that didn't matter, good or bad.
Now, you had mentioned to me that your husband had saved some silver
Yeah.
and that you lived on that work. Did you still have this with you?
This silver, my husband met once in the town before we went in the ghetto. A Lithuanian couple, they were the manager from the railway station where we were living. And these were very nice people. And my husband said that maybe he could have saved our child. I don't know. I very often think. But my child didn't speak Lithuanian, and they spoke only Lithuanian.
Oh, you mean they might have taken him in?
If he could have spoken Lithuanian, they would have taken him. So we didn't. But they kept our silver, and later they gave it us back when we were in the ghetto. And we sold piece by piece, and
Who did you sell it to?
where my husband worked, this laundry was on the edge of the wires, and the Lithuanians brought food in. Like my mother-in-law was still living in beginning, and she sent us some clothes, what I told you, from this Lithuanian girl. And we sold these clothes to good suits for my husband. I had barley shoes, we had good things,
So the Lithuanian
Well,
townspeople would buy this?
Townspeople would buy it and would bring food for us.
I see.
But this, otherwise, I don't think we would have survived if we wouldn't have something to sell.
So by the time you were now in this factory, you no longer had anything left to sell?
No, we
It
had
was all
nobody
gone.
whom to sell
And nobody to sell it to. Did you ever hear, and I'm just digressing a little bit, what happened to your mother-in-law and sister-in-law?
I told you before, they were taken out and shot in the woods. One day they took all the Jews out and shot him there
And what town was that from?
in Tauranga.
From Tauranga.
Yeah.
And you heard this later?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so let's get back. How long did you work in this factory?
It started in fall, and it was till 1944, about a year, I think.
So in the fall of 43, you were taken to the factory?
Yes. And I think in summer of 44, I think we were evacuated from there.
And where did you go from there?
Then they brought us in cattle wagon,
Cattle cars?
cattle cars to Stutthof.
When you were deported from the factory, what happened? Where did they take you to? I mean, where were you deported from?
From this, they brought us in this.
Was there a railroad station right there?
Not right there. They brought us to the railroad station. I don't remember how we came there, probably in army trucks. And then we were 42 people in such a cattle things, without food, without water, without hygienic things. Very, very.
How long did that trip take?
Must have taken 4 or 5 days, I don't know.
And you were taken to Stutthof.
Yeah.
Did they tell you where you were going?
No, they never told us where we were going. They never told us.
And were you able to sit on this cattle car?
On the floor, all the 42 people were lying one on top of the other one.
There was no sanitation? What did you use for sanitary conditions?
I don't remember anymore.
Did they stop to give you food during the days?
We didn't get anything to eat. I don't think we had anything. I don't remember that we had anything to eat during the whole time.
What was the condition of the people? I mean,
Terrible. Panic.
panic.
Panicky, terrible.
Were they ill? Were they?
Sure, certainly were ill, and the air and everything.
Did the cars ever stop? Did the train ever
They
stop?
stopped sometimes for a short while.
Did they let you go out?
No, oh no.
Okay, so you arrived in Stutthof.
Yeah,
Can you tell me what that was like?
that was terrible. By the way, when they came in, they had such line made with cement blocks, going here and here, and all between were cement blocks, and there the men, and there the women, and there were a few women who had children. They were in the camps, outside, a few saved, and very few. And the women had to go right away with the children
To a different place.
to a different place. They were all killed, the women with the children, and the men came in a different place, and we came in a different place.
But you were, up until that point, you were with your husband.
And up till Stutthof, I wasn't my husband. My husband was very ill. His stomach was completely ruined, terrible. We had, I don't know if I should tell this, it's too much to tell. We had friends that worked somewhere else where they brought food, and the railway station where they brought food, the rice, the grease, whatever the children, whatever the soldiers needed. And they sent us in our camp through a person who was living in our camp but working there in this factory camp. And they brought us sometimes a little bit cream of wheat or some noodles or something. And this kept my husband alive, because we could go get only kale and red beets mit peels on it. What we got to eat, that was terrible.
Would you like to take a drink? You can take a drink if you like.
Yeah, so he wouldn't have survived without this.
Without the extra food.
No, he would not.
How about you? How did you manage?
I managed. I had the worst headache in the world.
Headache?
Oh,
Constantly?
look out of my eyes.
Take a drink and then...
It was from the excitement, you know. But I also had a little luck. The German Wehrmacht who were over us in this factory, not SS. And they were very kind to me. When I was sick, I got a slip paper that I could stay in the barrack. But you only got when you had very, very high fever. But he gave it to me. He was a very bad man. He hated old women, the one man, the Oberscharführer, you know. He hated old people, but he loved young people. And he gave me every time I felt bad that I should leave me in the barrack.
Like an excuse that you were...
Yeah, that I cannot work.
Please take a drink so that I know you're dry now. Okay, good.
And there were other ones who they were not bad, they were nice to us.
So they were the Wehrmacht in that
Yeah,
factory.
yeah.
Did they use civilian guards also at all? Only...
For guards, they used SS.
And for the supervisors, they were the Wehrmacht?
Yeah, was only under the Wehrmacht.
And so this man was kind to you?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3 were very kind to me. And to other people too.
Did you see any incidents where they exhibited cruelty to the people that were working?
I said only this one man who was good to me. He
but
was
did you-
sometimes cruel to other women.
How did you see, what kind of punishment or cruelty did you witness?
He could have hit him too when he felt like, but not too often.
But you were hit, you said, when you tried to save your son, to keep your
Yeah,
son.
oh yeah, I was hit more than once later.
Okay. All right, so now we're in Stutthof.
Yeah.
And there was a selection, there was a separation between the men and the women.
Yeah, 2 men.
And where were you sent? You?
For the time being, we were about 3-4 weeks in Stutthof under terrible conditions.
What were the conditions like in
There was
Stutthof?
already typhus all over. There were already many people who died on typhus, and we had to sleep in the same beds with the same covers, and the food was unbelievable bad. But then they said one day they needed 1,000 women to go to work.
All right, before you tell me that, I would like to know a little bit more. What was the food like, and what did they give you during a day?
It was mostly a soup with green, you know what kale is?
Kale,
Or
yes.
something so green with such long strands, not cut, nothing. And this was cooked in plain water.
And that was your meal?
And that was our meal.
Was that your main meal of the day?
That was our main meal. I don't think we ever got meat or anything. And we got a little piece of bread.
And this was once a day you were given this to eat?
Once a day we got the soup, yes.
How was this distributed? Did you each have your own bowl to eat?
Yeah, we had our own dish. They brought these big pails of food, so much for so many people, and then each one got a spoonful, such a big...
A ladle full of...
Yeah, ladle, yes.
And you mentioned that there was a lot of illness. Was there a hospital there? You're saying
There was
no.
no hospital, no. There was no hospital, no doctor, nothing.
So if you were sick, there was no treatment?
No.
All right, so now they asked for 1,000 women.
Yeah, they'd asked for 1,000 women, and
Oh, before we do that, were you living in a barracks at that time?
yeah, I said we were living in big barracks with double, triple beds, or were very big beds. You had to sleep one on one cot, you know, on one of the bunks. And there was nothing, only a sack with straw in, no covers, nothing.
So you were there for about 5 weeks, you say?
I think 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
I think it was about 3 weeks.
At Stutthof. Okay. Did they ask for volunteers to go out, or did they just select
No, they said
you?
they need 1,000 women, and everybody is running, because everybody wanted to go out from there, you know? So everybody was running, and the first time, 1 or 2 rows before me, they had 1,000, and I was not taken. I had to go back. We were that unhappy, we had to go back to our barracks. Then the next day or 2 days again, they said again they needed 1,000. And I don't think the next time I came in too, I'm not sure. But then they said they miscounted, they need 300 more or a few hundred more. And then I went, was a woman, we were living in ghetto already together. We went there, and I came in to go out, and she didn't.
Really?
And she never came out. So when we went out from the ghetto, from the concentration camp, I saw a doctor I knew on the wire outside on the fences, and I said, Dr. Buchstein, did you see my husband? Do you know? He said, yes, he's over there. I will go and will get him. On his knees, he went there to pick my husband up.
Why is that?
They couldn't get up. They wouldn't have known that. So my husband came on his knees.
They crawled,
Yeah,
so they shouldn't be seen.
Shouldn't be seen. He came to the fences, and I told him what I know, that I said we go to a farmer, and I don't know if it is for sure. So he was there, and he was dead unhappy, certainly.
Well, he couldn't help you in any way.
No, he couldn't help himself.
During those 3 weeks, had you seen him at all?
No, never.
Okay. So now they took you along with these other 300 women or so?
Yeah, outside. And outside were waiting farmers already from the surroundings, from the camps, farmers. And each one, our farmer had a big farm. He got 8 women.
So they were using the prisoners as farm help.
Yeah.
Do you think, or do you know if any of the other thousands who went before you also went into the surrounding community?
No, many went to factory work, to other works. They went farther away.
All right, so your farmer got 8 women, is that
my
right?
farmer, he got 8 women.
And how long did you stay with this farmer?
We came there about in summer, July or August.
Of 19 what?
1944 it must have been. And we could stay there late fall. And then they took it away from us, from there, and we had to dig trenches for the
Germans?
Germans, yes.
While you were living with the farmer, where were you living?
In a room next to the cow and
In the barn.
yeah.
And did he feed you?
He was a nice man. He was a SS man.
He was.
But he was very nice. He was kneeling on his knees and he made a stove for us. Everything against his wife's protection. She was a terrible woman. She could have given poison us. But he was really very nice.
Do you remember his name?
Joachim, his second name.
Joachim.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He was 8 kilometers from Stutthof.
So could you have escaped or could you have run away if you had wanted to? Did anybody try to run away?
We could have run away. Nobody guarded us.
Nobody guarded you.
But where could you? We had the striped clothes and this
You were wearing the
concentration
uniforms?
camp clothes. Where could you go?
Okay. And so you stayed there for how long?
We said yeah, we came there July or August, and we stayed there the late fall, maybe November.
So you were there for a few months.
Yeah.
And then who came to take you away?
They called from the concentration camp. He had to bring us back right away.
So you went back to the concentration
Yeah.
camp?
Yeah, in a very bad. There are a few incidents. I don't know if I can tell you. I can tell you for 4 weeks when I would tell you everything.
I'm sure. No, well, we'll just try to get the most important things that you want to tell. So when you came back to the concentration camp,
This I have to tell you, because I think that's important too. From working there, we contracted poisoning, gangrene on our feet. And he sent back 3 girls from Czechoslovakia. He sent back, and he brought other ones there, you know. My foot was that big from the
Swollen.
gangrene, you know, under the skin. It went away. And
what kind of work did you do on the farm?
anything what is in, we collected when you make oil, in German it's called Raps, but you make oil from it, a kind of things. You make oil from it, and this has such thick straws. And the machine cuts it only so far away. And these things, they scratched our skins. We had to collect, this were big, big fields. We had to collect these things and put it together. And this scratched our skins.
And that's how you got this.
Poisoned.
And that's what happened to your
That's
legs.
what happened to me. And I couldn't walk anymore. And one day he comes in, and I didn't go to work. He came in the room looking at the work. I couldn't go. I had such a leg. So he said, "What happened to you?" I said, and he saw I had my leg on a bench. He said, "You cannot work anymore. I have to bring you back to the concentration camp." And I said, "Please, Mr. Joachim, don't bring me back. Maybe you could give me some ointment so I could get something for me. I could heal it myself." I said he was a nice man, you know. He said, "I will talk to my sister." And his wife was terrible. And his sister was the same nice like he is. And she brought me from what the soldiers are getting, the best ointments. And I had so many wounds on my feet. In one day was 1 tube gone. And she always brought me fresh one and healed my feet. And one day he said, one day he put me under washing, should wash, I had my clothes, so that's not important. Then the next day he said, "You can go on the field and cultivate the field with 2 big horses 3 times as high as I am," and I had to do that. But it was harder than anything else. Also, all right, I survived.
You survived. So then they came, and he had to take you back to the camp.
Yeah,
he had
in
orders.
the middle of the night he had us to take us back to the camp.
And did you remain in Stutthof?
No, I said they brought us back only for the reason because we had to dig these trenches. The army came nearer.
Was the trenches? Did you leave the camp to go dig the trenches?
Yes, we had to walk in the morning, 6 o'clock when it was dark. We had to walk, I don't know how far, till we came to the place to dig the trenches.
And it was cold at this time.
It was cold and raining, and it was this heavy brown earth, you know, I don't know how you say in English, this brown earth, the heavy brown earth. People sank in these things, and we had to dig this and make this trench. It was terribly hard work and very little food. It was good food there because we got army food.
Army food.
From the army we got but 1 spoon.
Was it all women that did this?
Yeah, all women.
How long did you do this?
This I did about till January from
45 now. 1945.
yeah 1945. That's right.
Okay.
Middle
And were the soldiers there? Were they there as you were working?
Very few soldiers.
You were just getting them getting ready a place for them to come to.
Yeah, they were only watching us that we worked.
And then
Worked
every
hard
night you
enough.
went back to the camp?
Every night in the darkness we went back to the camp, wet and hungry and terrible.
And what happened in January of 45?
And then one day we heard already the shooting sometimes came nearer from the Russians, you know.
You knew that the war was coming closer?
Yeah, we knew the war was coming closer. So they said we all will evacuate it, we have to leave here. One day they took a week before they took one transport, and they left me still there because I was a good worker. And then a week later or so they came the rest. And they brought us.
Let me just ask you one thing. When you came back to Stutthof, was your husband still there?
No.
Did you try to find him?
How can you try? That was impossible.
You could not make any contact?
No, you couldn't.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No. And I have my hand here again.
I'm sorry?
I had my hand here again. So they brought us, they brought us, I have to think of it. Yeah, they brought us back to Stutthof again. I'm talking about, they took us from the working place,
Yes.
you know?
And they took you back to camp?
They took us back to camp again. And from there, they said, we will go on a ship, you know?
On a ship?
They will bring us on a ship. So I had a girlfriend, she was such a smarty bus. She said, we see that we come first, that we can get a seat on the ship, you know? So we go, and it was very primitive, you know? You had to go, so a plane ladder up to the ship.
How did you get from Stutthof to the ship?
Suppose with trucks, or did we walk? See, sometimes you forget things.
Okay.
I don't
that's all.
remember if we walked or
Okay,
not.
so
we
you
may
went-
have walked, I don't know.
You went to a port city? You went to a...
No, it was a plane. It was a ship was nothing. The ship was on a lake, a plane, ship who crosses the lake.
I see.
Primitive things. And you had to go up with a ladder. And you could only go on the ladder when the upper person was already left the ladder. And I may have, but she said, see that we get a seat. I may have been a little bit, I don't remember. When I came and put my foot on the ladder, he hit me so terribly, cut my whole face.
Who was this, a soldier?
A German. He cut my whole face through and through. And in the meantime, they only crossed this river or this lake. It wasn't worth a penny, you know.
So where did you go to? Where did you go next?
They brought us to evacuate there, to march through whole half of Germany.
And you were on a march.
Yeah.
How long were you on this march?
We were on the march from January 10th till about 8 weeks.
And where were you going to? Did they tell you in Germany?
They told us nothing. They told us nothing. They never told us anything. We were marching and marching in snow and in all these terrible conditions.
Was there food?
There was very little food. They sometimes brought us to a farmhouse, you know, where we slept with the cows and with the things in the thing, and we milked the cows, and We got all the diarrhea from it, no food, only. I never drank milk in my life, and there I drank a little bit. I got that sick. So,
How many women were on this march with you, would you say?
when we walked out, I think it was 700. And then some froze the legs, and some froze the fingers, and I had to stay back, and some, I had my best girlfriend. We were very good friends from Hungary, yeah. She dropped on the floor, and they shot her.
In front of your eyes?
She couldn't go farther.
Who were the guards who guarded you on this march?
This was all Germans.
Were they soldiers?
They were soldiers.
Okay. And what happened at the end of the march, after the 8 weeks?
So we marched in different camps. We were staying in this camp for a little bit, and then, and you want to hear the end of it?
Yes.
Yeah. So we were once, they called us in the middle of the night, we have to march again. I was already in a terrible condition. I couldn't walk anymore nearly. So in this camp where these people were already mixed, because we went through so many camps. Germans and everything were there who were did something, you know, they were mixed with us. And they took me, one was a Jehovah's Witnesses, she took me on one side, and the other one, she was for black marketing, she was putting. They took me and carried me, otherwise I would never made it.
So you helped each other? People helped each other?
Yeah. And so we came in the morning about 8 o'clock, we came in a little village, and there they put us again in a shed in a...
How many people were left at this point?
Not many, not too many. And we were there in the morning in the shed and waiting, and we came there about 8 o'clock, and about 10 o'clock we heard shooting. And I had to go out, you know, a minute, until I came back to my place. There were already Russians there.
And what happened to the German guards?
Most shot them, and some ran away, and some were shot.
So you were liberated by the Russians?
By the Russians.
Do you remember the date?
The date was March the 10th.
1945. And what did the Russians do for you at that point? Did they help you to recuperate?
No, they let us go on our way. They didn't do much.
And where did you go after liberation? Did you go back to Lithuania, or?
No, I was that sick. I had typhus. I was terribly sick, and I was in a hospital for a while. And then after a while I was...
Where were you in Germany when you were liberated? I didn't ask you that. Do you know?
Yeah, that was, I think, Pommern in West Prussia.
West Prussia?
Yeah.
Okay. And so how long did you remain in Germany after the war?
We remained in Germany. We went to the United States.
No, well, when did you meet with your husband again? When did you find him?
In October 45, I think, yeah.
In October 45?
Yes.
And how long did you remain in Europe after that?
Then we were in Europe, I think, till next fall.
For a year?
About 9 months, something like that.
Okay. And when did you come to the United States?
On the 20th of December, 1946.
Okay. And you came to where in the United States?
New York.
And did you have any other children after that?
Yes, I had exactly 10 years after my first was born, I got my son on February 20th.
Okay. If you could
1946.
tell us something about the Holocaust that could live beyond us, what would it be?
It is impossible to believe that people could survive that. I cannot believe today, or never could believe, that people did survive this terrible what happened.
Well, I want to thank you, Mrs. Isaacs, for sharing your experience with us.
I thank you for spending your time.
I know it was very difficult for you. This has been Helen Desmond interviewing Bertha Isaacs about her experiences as a survivor of the Nazi Holocaust. This interview will be included as a valuable contribution to the Oral History Library of the Holocaust Documentation and Education Center, Incorporated.